Are we really getting what we paid for? Because I know I cannot be the only one seeing all the different manufacturers share what it really costs to produce the items that we love, whether it is that $1,200 luxury bag you saw that actually only turns out to be $57 to make, or all of us trying to figure out where and who is actually making our clothes. So as your sustainable materials bestie, I am breaking down how to really understand whether the price point makes sense and if you are truly getting quality, and answering the age-old question, are we really getting what we pay for? Are more expensive things actually worth the money? So grab your little drinky drink. If you happen to be new here, I am Jordan Blackwell. You can call me JB, your sustainable materials bestie turned lifestyle content creator. And let's just dive right in with the breakdown of what things actually cost, because this is all over the internet right now. I know you have been on TikTok, you have seen the Chinese manufacturers talking about how much it takes to produce items. I know working in sustainable materials engineering, I definitely got to see firsthand just how much of a markup a lot of brands were giving us. And so I wanted to talk about wholesale price first before talking about why there is this markup when it comes to mid-range to accessible high street, plus of course designer brands as well. So very simply, wholesale is just the cost it makes to produce an item, typically in bulk, right? And the reason that this is really, really important is because this will dictate the base price across industries, whether you are talking about a small designer, fast fashion, or luxury brands. And what makes up wholesale is the material itself, where that's being supplied, the different processes in terms of dyeing or weaving that have gone into place, then constructing that garment, plus how many garments are actually being made. This is the reason we do see a lot of Black-owned brands typically priced higher, because unlike fast fashion brands and the luxury brands, they are not able to garner these big bulk orders at the same prices. I'm not going to dive too deep into that conversation today, but vendors make a huge difference to the base price of what an item costs to make. From there, of course, we know the prices start to go up, right? Because there is shipping, marketing, retail overhead. Of course, there's also brand legacy and the exclusivity. That is a lot of the reason you see designer brands marking up their products by as much as 300 to 500%, right? We all saw the video airing out how Hermes bags can be made for around $1,200 with high quality products, with good craftsmanship. And that's really what I want to get into when we are thinking about what's quality. Essentially, when I'm looking for quality, I'm looking at the material itself, the construction, and the durability. All of those things have a huge impact on what a quality piece will cost. And some things that are not being discussed in some of the other videos is what makes some of these things more expensive and higher quality. For example, when we are thinking about cotton, I know we are seeing so many conversations like cotton is more sustainable. It is better, but guys, it's not that black and white, because the truth is where materials are supplied from makes a huge difference. Not all cotton is pesticide free. Not all cotton goes through organic dye processes, and they aren't woven the same, right? And so fiber length and strength plays a huge role when it comes to getting quality products and why you will be paying more for some things. Typically speaking, long staple fibers are smoother, they're more durable, and less likely to pill and tear. Therefore, they're going to be worth more money. Because the truth is, when you are trying to find quality, the material matters, but being able to understand how the material is made matters even more. The other thing that is going to make something higher quality, if we're looking at the materials itself, is the fiber origin and the farming practices, y'all. This is why we see so many videos around white tees. Is the $10 tee any better or any worse than the $100 tee or the $1,000 cotton tee? Because not all cotton is created equally, and not all cotton is produced for the same reasons. Generally speaking, cotton is actually very labor intensive to harvest and to process. That's not even including pesticides, dyeing, and weaving, right? And that's one of the reasons you typically don't see cotton being truly affordable. And when you do see cotton being affordable, odds are the quality is lacking because it has a looser weave. Because we have to remember, our fabrics are literally woven together, and how tight or how loose that weave is will make or break the quality and how long something can last and how durable it is. So that is a good starting point when we are trying to understand materials and how they impact cost, right? Because where things are coming from, the work that has to go into getting that product ready to actually be constructed into a garment that we are going to love and wear the hell out of, that really does have a huge impact on cost across industries, even for man-made materials, including polyester, which brings me into the last point around materials, because there is such a common misconception when it comes to man-made materials that companies chose these materials to be cheaper. And we have to remember that these were made for other things first and then incorporated into fashion. And the reason that polyester blends or acrylic blends are very popular is also to add durability. Cotton by itself, depending on how it's woven, depending on how it's being used, can wear really fast and actually tear. And so companies do try to fortify and make these materials stronger by blending them. Now, that is not completely defending polyester as a whole, but having that understanding, because that does impact the durability of your products when we're looking for quality. If you have cotton and you're wearing pants and you've got thick thighs, girl, and they are rubbing back and forth, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna wear sooner, it's gonna tear sooner. But having just a little bit of polyester in there, a little bit of elastane in there, will allow those pants to last way longer than they would if they were 100% of a virgin fabric. So that is why materials to me has always been kind of the king in gauging quality, because if you do not start with good quality fabrics to begin with, it's gonna be hard to construct a good garment, and it's not going to be durable. So that is why materials is always going to be king for me and what I look at first before I look at where something is manufactured, because you need quality materials to start with if you want something that is going to last and be worth the price point. That is why durability is something that's important to understand as well, because those blends can actually work in your favor, right? Now, breaking down those blends really quickly. The more organic the material, whether you're talking cotton, you're talking wool, you're talking silk, that's gonna drive up that price point. But as there is a higher percentage of other materials in that blend, that should bring the price point back down in terms of affordability. So that's one of the reasons you do see a lot of these blends, even in luxury brands, but that to me is also why they are not worth the price point, because having a higher blend at a fast fashion place makes sense because it should be less expensive. Having a mostly polyester or nylon material, Prada, I may be looking at you, but charging thousands of dollars, that's when you're starting to get, I don't want to say scammed, but overpaying and not getting the quality that you should for what you're paying. Moving into construction, this is one of the big debates we are talking about, and why I'm always going to tell you that we need to start getting involved in politics around supply chain transparency. Like, if the whole China debacle did anything for us, I really hope that it opened our eyes to just how much information still is not readily available to us as consumers to fact check these brands. Because it should not be hard to figure out where the material came from, who specifically manufactured it, and of course, how it was constructed. We always understand that with the fast fashion brands, because they are churning out so much product, a lot of bulk orders, there is a lot of construction details that slip through the cracks. You're more likely to see those teared seams, you're likely to see too much tension on the seams, you're likely to see too tight of a weave or too tight of a knit on sweaters compared to mid-range and luxury brands. The hard part about this, and the hill I'm going to die on, is this is not always indicative of the country's ability to produce quality. This says more about the brands themselves. I'm gonna say that one more time because I get everyone's confusion. We do often see a lot of inexpensive, poorly made clothes coming from certain countries. I don't want to name names, but in the same breath, those countries also do make amazingly high quality pieces. It's just that the brands are choosing to cut those corners at all levels, at all levels. Even small businesses I have seen do this practice, because they want to try and make up those profit margins. And this is why construction is such a hard one as well, because manufacturing locations are not really disclosed and aren't shared as openly, especially when we get to designer level and luxury levels and even some of the mid-range brands. And the crazy part is there are fast fashion brands who are trying to highlight this and be transparent about it. H&M, surprisingly, is one of the faster fashion brands that I have seen try to bring more transparency to their supply chain from sharing where it is manufactured, where the materials are coming from throughout the entire supply chain. And I would love to see us really championing for this across brands so that we as consumers can make these better decisions and truly guarantee that the expensive clothes are worth the expense and we're not just overpaying for the sake of overpaying. So those are all the things to be looking at even before you put a piece on to truly identify if the price point makes sense in terms of quality. Of course, you want to make sure that you actually like how it feels on you. You want to make sure that it actually sits on you and has the silhouette that works for your body and for your frame as well. And once you purchase an item, there are a couple of things that you want to kind of double check just to make sure after you've washed it. First is shrinkage, and I know we've all been there where we bought something and whoop, it turns into a baby tee on accident. That is not normal. Now, a little bit of shrinkage can be normal, especially depending on the processing of the garment, including the dye. I think a lot of people don't think about how the processing of the material itself does impact some of those things like shrinkage. The wrong dye job on accident, guys, truly can unfortunately not only cause your items to shrink, but it can cause color transfer or fading, which is the other thing that you want to make sure you are looking at post wash and truly paying attention to those things. And that is again why I think it would be so nice for more brands to be transparent about what those processes are. So as we are experiencing these things, we can understand better how that might be tied to the raw material suppliers or dye companies used by these brands that we love, and we can actually start asking for specific changes in those processes to benefit us as consumers. Then of course you want to make sure you're looking at just the overall deterioration of the piece. Like suddenly are there holes in it? Are some of the seams starting to tear? Are you seeing some of the knitting getting caught or loose? Pay attention to those things as well, because that will definitely give you a sign as to whether or not you got a quality piece. Now I have to talk about sustainability impacting costs, because one myth that we do need to debunk right now is that something that is made sustainably does not always have better quality. I know, gather yourselves, that feels shocking coming from a sustainable materials engineer. However, I've seen it time and time again, and that was one of the huge barriers I had at my job to get a lot of these sustainable materials to market, was just that they truly could not handle the durability test that we had. They truly were not ready for the long-term wear and the effects of obviously consumers being consumers with their clothes. The increased price and sustainability is around making sure that there are fair wages throughout the entire process. There's responsible sourcing for materials as well, from raw materials to the actual processing of the materials itself to the point about cotton. And then of course there is small batch production. So unfortunately, when you are not making big orders, you cannot bring that price down past a certain point. We just aren't there yet in terms of efficiency for smaller batch things. But as the technology gets better from manufacturing, we will start to see some of those prices lower. So are expensive clothes worth the price tag? I'm definitely gonna echo what you've probably heard before, and that is, it's not that cut and dry. As you've probably learned in this video, a lot of information is missing for a lot of consumers on the front end to truly understand whether or not we are actually getting what companies say that we are getting, whether we are also getting the craftsmanship that companies say we are getting, because the laws do allow companies to manufacture certain things in one place and finish in another, and use that finishing place to be able to place a made in Italy or made in Europe, made in Africa tag on items. That is nothing new. And for us as consumers, that is why I think it's so important that we again get more involved locally and nationally, trying to get better laws around supply chain transparency from raw materials to manufacturing, so that we are able to, again, really just fact check that we're getting what we're getting. Because what I've definitely seen is that past the mid-range point, like a couple $100s, the quality truly is not improving in leaps and bounds. Now, uniqueness definitely is. And that's something that you guys know I always spend a little bit more money on, is unique craftsmanship and items that I am truly not seeing anywhere else. The Kai Collective jeans, the good jeans, are a great example of that, right? And I think that's why we're seeing such a big shift when it comes to people wanting more, because we just need that traceability at this point. I think that's where we're all kind of craving a little bit more honesty in these conversations, is just, can y'all truly show us without a shadow of a doubt, this is where you got your material from, this is who made my material, so that I can again have that ease of mind beyond the brand name. Because that's really what I keep finding when it comes to luxury designers, and that's why I've always stood on the positioning of buy it if you like the piece, because a lot of the luxury houses that have been around, we have seen slip in quality. I mean, there have been conversations around Chanel bags not having the same quality. There have been conversations around Dior bags and Prada bags not having the same quality, not having that longevity, that I really do feel like Anything above, like I said, a couple $100s, you are basically just paying for the name. And if that's what you want to do and you want to support that brand, but for me, if we're really just talking about expensive pieces being quality, thousands of dollar pieces typically are not giving higher quality than a couple $100 pieces, unless just there's a one-off in terms of craftsmanship or something like that, right? Because as you know, I've had fast fashion pieces for decades in my closet that you guys have seen me style left, right, and sideways. So there's always going to be one-offs. You can find gems at fast fashion and find horribly made pieces at designer as well. Price does not always equal performance. And again, as we make more steps towards making these companies be transparent and allow us to truly trace every part of that process, the power that we do have is in knowing what to look for, understanding what fabrics make sense to be spending more money on, what craftsmanship to be looking for in terms of seams. And if you feel like you want a deeper dive into how to truly identify quality pieces, I have this video that I made that dives even deeper, looking at seams, looking at patterns, really showing you how to ensure that you're getting quality regardless of how much you spend. So thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and don't miss a video from your girl. And thank you again for watching. Let's hang out more in this video.